Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. This is just the sign-in page for anyone that needs to go ahead and sign in to LBCC. Just to let us know who is here and who has attended the workshop. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, so hello, welcome everybody to the first Student Success Workshop of the 2025 fall semester. Um, I hope you guys all had a really good summer break and that you all enjoyed everything to you enjoyed your summer to the best of your ability. And um, we're gonna kick off by starting the semester, or at least these student success workshops, discussing um, our online classes. So this workshop is called Navigating Your Online Classes. And um, what this online class, not this online class, what this student success workshop is going to be kind of centered around is um, primarily how to maintain and how to keep yourself in check while you are doing online classes. For our dual enrollment students, I know that a lot of you guys are either taking classes um, at your high schools or you are taking some classes um, here on campus. But, I think a good majority of you guys are taking online classes because, you guys are in high school or you're in middle school. So, um, we're going to go in and deep dive into what it is that we can do to kind of better that, to kind of stay on track so you guys are not falling behind in your classes. I know that I did something similar to this, where we just talked about Canvas in general, which we will be talking about again. So let's just go ahead and get started. So starting off today with our agenda. So we're kind of I mean to actually flip these two. But we're going to talk about what netiquette is. If you've ever heard about that, um, awesome. It's a good thing you know about it, but we're going to go in and talk about it a little bit. And then we're going to kind of go through Canvas. We're going to go through all the things that you need to know about Canvas when you are logging in. So I believe that everyone should be familiar with Canvas, but there may be a possibility that not everyone knows about it. So we're going to go ahead and go through that. Then we're going to go into the calendar, which is really important. And I think we're going to do it like a quick activity, just help for you guys to get that set up. And then we're going to go over some time management and some strategies while you're on Canvas. And then we'll go over some additional resources after that. So one thing I want to go ahead and kind of give a quick um, reminder too is that although that we are taking online courses and we're taking online classes, you guys are still in the classroom. Um, what does that mean? Well, we'll kind of get into that with netiquette, but when you guys are online, sometimes we can tend to forget that we are in a classroom setting because you're looking at your teacher, your professor through the screen. So it's always good to just remind yourself that, when even regardless of where you are and how you're taking your courses, especially when you're online, you need to just remind yourself that you're in the classroom. So, be respectful to your professors, be respectful to your peers. If, for example, if you need to go and you know, uh, step out for a little bit, private message your professor, just letting them know, like, hey, I need to step away for a little bit. If professors tell you to turn your camera on and it is required that they have your camera on, that they want your camera on so they can see your beautiful faces, it would be, go ahead and do that unless, there is a reason for why you cannot do that. But that's just something I want to quickly go over and kind of start with before we kind of go forward. So we're going to talk real quick about netiquette. So what exactly is netiquette? Let me go ahead and move myself real quick. All right. So what exactly is netiquette? Well, it's a short term that means Um, that means internet etiquette. If we talk about etiquette in general, it is basically, you know, um, being polite and being well behaved and just giving the courtesy to anyone or the space that you're in. And that is something that also applies while you're on the internet and when you're in your online classes. So, netiquette in general means is a short term for internet etiquette. Um, like I mentioned before, um, this is a code of good and preferred behavior on the internet. So, observing and exercising good online behavior is not only mandatory, but it's everybody's responsibility, meaning that, not only are you holding yourself accountable, but respectfully try to hold your peers accountable. You're all working together, trying to finish your courses together. So um, the best thing I can explain it or kind of put it into the perspective is um, do what you want others to do for you. So if you want respect, if you want kindness and politeness, showcase that to others and they will do the same for you. So, what is the impact of netiquette? So, netiquette can prevent miscommunication. You're actively um, getting clarification from your professors about assignments or you're clarifying specific concepts for a topic that you guys are learning about. It's having that kind of having proper and good etiquette will prevent any kind of form of miscommunication. Um, Etiquette can also enhance your learning experience. So, we're all very familiar with Zoom. We're all very familiar with the internet. When you have a good experience with your online courses, and you have a really good experience like with your peers and your professor while you're doing your online courses, and you know, it can enhance your learning experience. Like you feel a little bit better about taking your courses. You feel better about doing your assignments and whatnot. It's can help when you have proper etiquette. Again, like I mentioned about having your peers by your side, and then also um, kind of creating that kind of bond with them, you kind of build a community of learners. Um, from my personal experience being in my master's program and being with the same 20 to 25 people for 2 years, we've built up that community together, that kind of community of learners where we're not only um, helping each other out while we're in class and while doing group projects and whatnot, but we're also kind of helping each other out aside from all of that. And um, that's just like something that can only happen if you talk properly and you work properly and politely and with kindness like to your peers, because again, you're on the internet. You may not see them all the time, but you never know what kind of impact that you may have on your peers. And first, and definitely not last or least, one of the most important things about the impact of etiquette is that um, when it is properly and effectively and positively um, used, it can foster a peaceful and respectful learning environment. So it can give everyone like a sense of belongingness and, um, no one's walking on eggshells anywhere. If you happen to see someone if you see someone in your Zoom call and you may have had like a bad experience with them, like, um, you know, uh, having positive etiquette can give that peaceful and respectful learning environment, which is very important for everyone's learning experience. So we're going to go real quick as to how you are supposed to how you find your Canvas. So we're gonna talk real quick just about how you log in. So one of the first things that you do is that how you get into your Viking portal. You go to your default browser, whether that's Google, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer, whichever it is that you use to have access to your Canvas. What you're going to do is that you're going to type in lbcc.edu at the top, like up here. If I can go ahead and play it real quick, like up here on top of the search bar, you're gonna type in this link right here, lbcc.edu. Then when you get to the home page here, you're gonna go over and you're going to click on Viking Portal. After you click on Viking Portal, you log in your credentials. And what are those credentials? Those credentials are your Viking ID number and your password. If you have any trouble with any of those steps, please feel free to give us a call and then we'll go ahead and, get help you out with getting that all sorted out. But that's how you log into your Canvas. And then when you log into your Canvas, it will be one of the tiles that you'll see. It will literally say Canvas and it's a big circle um, in the middle. I believe it should be right next to your Viking student system tile. So we're going to kind of go over real quick the dashboard. So the dashboard is going to contain all of um, it's literally going to contain everything that you need from your courses to what classes what assignments are due, and then also stuff from your calendar. Your dashboard is your overview of everything. So some of the important things to kind of make note of that, especially um, as students, one of those things would be a discussion board. Most of your professors may or may not. Usually they do. They use discussion boards as little assignments for you. So it's important to kind of get that to be familiarized with that. Um, Files, if there's things that your professor wants you to look at in your modules, that is something that you should also be familiar with. So you can find articles that you guys may need to be reading, um, assignments. Um, Assignments that are going to be due that might be found in the files, your rubrics and everything. Announcements are another important thing. Usually they'll be like right here on this upper hand corner, or even when you press on one of the courses of yours, it will show you announcements from your professor. This is really important because you need to check that in case of a professor announces that you may not be having class that day. So you're not rushing to get over to your computer after school, or you're not rushing to get back home. It's always important to check your announcements. And usually your announcements and like everything from Canvas will be connected to your email. So, always kind of double check with your email as well. Um, be aware of your quizzes that you're given. If a professor tells you that you have to take this quiz at this time, it won't be open until a certain time, keep that in mind. The quizzes are going to be very important. And then also your grade book, what you use in order to kind of keep track of your classes. So going over course content, um, usually professors, and I'm sure that many of you are also familiar with it, um, professors and teachers use modules. Modules are the sets or units that break down a larger course or curriculum into smaller, digestible topics or skills. Basically, what that means is that, um, for example, for 1 week, you guys would be talking about let's just say different ecosystems, right? You're in a animal biology course, or you're in a biology course. You're in a class for 8 weeks. Say, for example, that every week is going to be a different topic throughout that whole week. So the first week could be talking about different ecosystems, and then The following modules of that could be um, going, having a deeper dive on those ecosystems. So, like the desert, the ocean, mountain regions, like, stuff like that. Um, the purpose of these modules is just so it's a little bit easier to have everything in one place. And usually that is where you're going to be submitting your assignments. You're going to be finding your quizzes that you'll be needing to take, your tests that you're going to be needing to take, your essays that you're going to be needing to write. Everything would be set up in that module. Um, why that's important to kind of make note of as students that are taking online courses is that you need to be able to pace yourself. So I know that a lot of students are the majority of students take asynchronous courses. Asynchronous courses, if you are unaware of what that means that you're taking online courses, but you're taking them at your own pace. You're not meeting with a professor every week. You're not, you're not having um, a test or you're not meeting with your professor every week and you're not having like a test every week. Um, why it's important to kind of have an idea of like how to pace yourself is just so you're not overloading yourself with a lot of assignments and you're not overloading yourself with a lot of study time. You should be able to, um, balance all of that all together, rather than having to cram it all into one session. So, if you ever find yourself in that difficult position, one of the things that you need to do is that you need to contact your professor. Um, it sounds scary. It definitely sounds really scary. Sometimes because you may not know what to say to your professor if you are struggling in your courses. But for example, let's say that you are trying to, these are just the three bullet points I have here are just some things that you can email or talk to your professor about. So you can start off by saying, I'm having trouble narrowing down my topic for my paper. Can you please offer me some guidance? If you're having trouble with finding a specific essay topic for you to write, you can always ask your professor. They will definitely help you out on that. Um, what can I do to improve my grades in this class? Um, say you've missed a couple assignments, you haven't been, say you do have synchronous courses where you are supposed to be meeting your professor at certain times of the day throughout the week, and you've been missing those classes, and that's affecting your grade. Please make sure you guys are contacting your professors on that. So, it shows them that you are actively taking charge of your online learning experience. And then also, what are the most common mistakes you see on the paper for this class? Do you have any guidance for avoiding any of those mistakes? So that's another thing too. It's like, if you want specifics on how to write your paper, like if you want to ask your professor what specifically it is that they're looking for when they read your paper, that's never a bad thing to ask. So these are just a few questions um, I can ask when it comes to course content, and you know, it's just it's a very good thing to kind of keep in mind because many students will forget that they can contact their professors. Um, but remember that you have to do it as the student. So a little bit more about course content. So quizzes, you guys will definitely be having quizzes. So one of the things that you need to um, be made aware of is that you're paying attention to how many quiz attempts you are given and the time limits. So say for example, you have a 10 question quiz and your professor says that you are given um, three attempts, and the highest score for each attempt will be the one that your professor takes. I've had that class before where the professor has done that, and sometimes we don't think about it, that also should kind of tell you that if you're just going through your quizzes and say if you know that there's three attempts and you're kind of just going through them, thinking that like, one of these has got to be right. Well, that should kind of tell you, take your time, slow down, remember remind yourself of what you've put and how you read the question, especially if they happen to be long answer questions. So, it's really important that you take your time when you're given like multiple quiz attempts. And then if you're not given multiple quiz attempts, if you're only given one attempt, take that time to really go through each question. One of the techniques that I used to use is that I would try to read every single question, and if I knew the exact answer for one of them, I would definitely go ahead and mark the answer. If I didn't, I would skip it. I believe that there should be a feature on Canvas where you're able to kind of bookmark questions that you need to go back to before you submit your quiz. So utilize that while you're there, and then also keep in mind of time limits. So that kind of also tells you that even if you're given different attempts or a different amount of quiz attempts or test attempts, um, sometimes your professor may be giving you a time limit. So you may only have 30 minutes. So that should kind of tell you, you know, especially if your professor tells you ahead of time, like how long your quiz is going to be or how much time you have on a test, you know, take that as your initiative and your motivation, to study for your exams. One of the important things to do is that, especially if you happen to have missed an exam or a quiz, you need to contact your professor. You need to contact your professor so you can either make up that exam, either by taking the exam again or however the professor sees fit. I know that's for sometimes um, with one of my professors, I've had to just write an essay to make up for the exam for them to know um, that um, I have studied the content and I am aware and also knowledgeable about what we've learned. But of course, it's going to be different for every professor. So one of the important things that you need to do, especially as online students and then especially as dual enrollment students, you yourself need to contact your professor. Um, and how you can find in your professor's contact information, and especially their office hours, is by looking through your syllabus. So that piece of paper that you get in the beginning of your class in the beginning of the school year, um, keep that in hand and also too, if you're on Canvas, your professors will have a copy of your syllabus on on your Canvas, on your Canvas course. So if you ever need to have, if you ever need to contact them and you have any concerns or questions, look for your professor's contact information and their office hours through your syllabus. So we're gonna go real quick on an assignment overview. So again, we have discussion boards. Um, Discussion boards are usually used for professors to see and also to kind of garner that kind of classroom aspect that you don't get when you're in person. So discussion boards are, you're expected to be respectful to your peers and your classmates, and also to the professor themselves. Um, I cannot tell you how many times I've actually seen um, an argument actually break out during a discussion board during my undergrad because students were disagreeing on certain topics. So, um, something to kind of remind yourself is that when you're online, um, what you say can be, you know, will be memorable. Um, what you say online can stay on the internet for a while, you know? That's why we always talk about like with social media and everything, be careful what you post. Um, So when you're thinking about your discussion post and you're thinking about your initial post, think of what is an appropriate response. What does an appropriate response look like? Well, that can include proper grammar, um, full-on sentences, writing specific points. I honestly think it's just really important that you get to the point of what it is that your professor is asking on the discussion board or even on an assignment. This also applies to assignments in general, um, not only to discussion boards, but assignments. Um, and, sometimes you may have difficulty in writing your assignments. You may have difficulty in um, kind of explaining what you want to say in your assignment or in your discussion board. Well, I know that especially for assignments, you have resources. We have the Writing Center. If you guys go over to the M building, we have the Writing Center that you guys can use in order to kind of help you have tutors help you write your essay. They can't write it in for you. Of course, you can't do that, but you can ask them to kind of help you edit, reword, paraphrase, whatever it is that you need to be done for your assignment. You can go over to them and they can definitely help you out with that. And that's just very important because a lot of professors still use Turnitin.com. What is Turnitin.com? Well, Turnitin.com is is a program that is usually embedded in your assignments when you turn it in. When you turn in your online assignments, the system will go through and see if you've plagiarized anything, if you have used a lot of references rather than your own opinions. Um, that is what Turnitin.com is. It is a tool for professors to see if you are using your own way of thinking and you're using your own words. Which kind of brings me, I should have put it on here as well, but it brings me to um, AI services like ChatGPT or Grammarly. It's really important that and that's kind of why it's really important to practice proper grammar, is because even with Grammarly, we had a situation with a student that had um, her whole paper got flagged um, with red on Turnitin.com because she happened to use Grammarly just to help her with rewording her own ideas. And, it was a whole that when that kind of happens, have that discussion with your professor, please. Let them know, like, this was all these really were my own ideas. It's just that I had assistance kind of rewording it. So it's kind of really important that you don't abuse AI tools. Um, w- it's just really important that you don't do that so you don't get flagged for plagiarism. And, I have seen students that have used ChatGPT to write their whole paper and they have turned it in and they have gotten an F on it because they used ChatGPT to write their whole paper. Um, be smart about how you use your be smart about how you use AI tools like that. Um, I believe that there's really no problem in using ChatGPT as a way to kind of help you visually, because that's how I use it. I use ChatGPT to visually see how I can reword something and then take what I've seen and try to put it in my own words as well. So that is one way of how to use ChatGPT. Again, if you don't want to use any of that, you definitely should use resources like the Writing Center or Tutoring Center. Okay. So we're going to go real quick on how you guys set up Canva. So this is how you set up your calendar on Canvas. And we're going to kind of go into why it's important that we do that after this. So say, for example, you guys are on your phone. This is where I would suggest that you guys do use Canva. Let me go ahead and move myself real quick so you guys can see. So you guys can see. So one of the first things that you're going to do is that you're going to see the three lines appear on your phone, and you're going to it's going to open up into your portfolio. So we're using our friend Miss Val as our example. So when you click on the three lines, it'll take you to your profile, and then you're going to click on here where it says settings. After you click on settings, you're going to scroll down and you're going to look under where it says preferences, and you're going to press subscribe to calendar feed. And because you'll be on your phone, you're going to you're going to follow that and you're going to click on subscribe when you do this. So we are going to be using, it's very beneficial that um, you use the calendar set up on your phone from Canvas because why? Well, the benefits of that is that you'll be able to keep track and complete your assignments. Having that constant reminder about your your a certain assignment coming up, that's gonna want to make you actually complete the assignment. It also helps with tracking your due dates. So you can set up when and how you you can set up how and when your assignments are going to be due. And this doesn't only go for online students, but it definitely goes for like all students that use Canvas. Um, Especially if you're an online student that is doing a million things at once, and all of us have our phones with us. It'd be really good to, have that kind of notification kind of pop up in your phone and be like, oh, that's where I need to do that. And then also it's accessible. Having being able to set up your calendar on there, you'll be able to see it a lot more easily. And, like I said, you guys have your phones with you 24/7. I have my phone with me 24/7. You'll have access to seeing what you'll have access to everything that you need to see. So we're gonna go off and kind of go into this area. So we're going to talk about time management really briefly. So, time management is a very important thing, especially as online students, because you need to balance between going to school in person and then and then completing your courses online. You need to find that kind of balance. So, time management is a really important skill that you guys will learn as online students. Um, you can use it for time-sensitive assignments, your busy schedules, and so much more. And when you have organized time management, when you're able to see what it is that you need to do, what you need to have done, um, your grades can basically, they can skyrocket. Um, you can have, you can have a great success if you are managing your time well between, your online courses and then your regular schooling. So what does that kind of look like? Well, if you kind of think about it as if, how many courses am I taking? Is this the right amount of courses that I can be taking online? And am I comfortable with taking this amount of courses? Because understandably so, we all want to get everything done as soon as possible, but sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. And it can be a little bit challenging. So, think back, think, okay, maybe I can't handle four online courses at the moment. Maybe I should only just try for two classes. And maybe I really like these two classes. And that's why I'm more motivated to be in them in comparison to these two classes. So, you know, kind of have that thought to yourself and then also talk to your LBCC counselors. So we're going to go over some quick strategies for Canvas. So assignments wise, you should try to prioritize your assignments that are based on your due dates. So, say for example, you have an assignment that's due this Thursday, do that assignment first before you do the big assignment on that's due in like 2 months. It's always important to prioritize what is going to be turned in first, um, in comparison to the ones that are supposed to be done in the long run. Because, for example, if you have an assignment that's due in 2 months, and you want to get started on it, you can definitely get started on it. But you know what? Your professor may be adding or changing some things along the way. And, you would put all your energy into this one thing without really prioritizing all the other assignments that you need to do. So just prioritize your assignments based on the due date. Then you can create a schedule and set time limits. One of the most important strategies and one of the most effective ones that I still use to this day is called the Pomodoro style. So, what that is that you are taking at least 25 minutes to study, to do assignments, or to work on papers, whatever it is that you're doing academic wise, you're doing it for 25 minutes without any distractions. So your TV is off, your music is off. Or if you work well with music, it's soft music that you won't get distracted by. So no K-pop Demon Hunters uh to be playing while you're doing your work. It may help, but you might want to go into the next song and then you totally forget about doing your assignment. Speaking from experience. But what you're basically doing is that for 25 minutes, you're doing everything without distraction. So TV, computer, um, I would say really catchy music, and then even your phone. For 25 minutes, you're working primarily on just your assignments. And then after your 25 minutes are up, you are going to be, you can give yourself a 5-minute break. And what that is that it's like in cycles. So you work for 25 minutes, and then you take a break for five, and then you go after that 5 minutes is done, you start again with 25, break for five. And what you can try to do is that you can try to increase the time. So say, for example, oh, I did really well for the first two rounds of 25 minutes. Let me try 30 minutes. And then that way you'll get like a 10-minute break if you worked well with doing your work for 30 minutes without distractions. Um, think about how you can do that yourself. And then, especially as online students, like, try to figure out what is going to help you, like what's going to help you personally rather than what everyone else is doing. Kind of going along with creating a schedule, plan your weeks ahead of time. So, like I said, you guys are given a syllabus. So, when you guys are given a syllabus, you guys are given due dates of like when certain assignments are due, when certain discussion boards are due, when quizzes are due. Plan out how and what you're going to be working on and studying for those weeks. Um, Calendars, like the one for your Canvas on your phone, it better be on your phone now, is going to be very helpful when you are working on assignments and you are trying to keep track of what it is that you have to do. And this especially even helps for our asynchronous students. So try to plan your weeks ahead of time. One of the things that students always forget that they can do is ask for help. You should not be afraid to ask for help, whether that's calling us at the Early College Initiatives office, whether that's talking to your counselor at your high school or at LBCC, asking for help from your professor, or even asking help from your parents. You know, never feel afraid to ask for help. We are always here to help you, and we all want you to succeed. So asking for help is going to be the best thing that you can do. If you don't understand something or if you need assistance with something. Um, Again, resource centers. It's really important that you guys take the initiative to ask for help. Um, Again, with the Pomodoro, like I've mentioned, and with the time limits, just try to avoid distractions. Um, I understand it's really hard that you want to go out with your friends and that um, you want to go watch a movie and whatnot. Well, remember your priorities and remember your responsibilities. So, you know, that kind of goes back into plan your weeks ahead of time, to avoid the distractions and to avoid falling behind, you know, try to take some time out of your day to kind of look at your week and see what days you're available and like what days that you need sometimes that you look throughout the week and see like what days that you can study, look for what days you can do your assignments, and then look for, those days where you need your me time because me time is very, very important. Um, Again, with the Pomodoro, silencing your cell phones, I would only say use your phone if you are using it as a timer. Um, some of the things that I've done in the past is that I've actually just used YouTube to look for Pomodoro timers, and I use them all the time. I use the ones for Hogwarts. I use the ones for with lo-fi music. Sometimes you can even find them on Spotify or Apple Music if someone has made a playlist for it. So, you know, the only time you should ever be using your phone is if you're using it as a timer. So those are just some strategies that you can use for Canvas. So over here, we have additional resources. Um, these resources are going to be found in um, they can be found in your Canvas. So this is just something that I think, especially for online students, it's very important that you guys you take charge of it. So starting from up here, this button, when you go over to Canvas and you look at resources, it should be like a little pin at the bottom of Canvas. Um, you'll get these icons. So starting with this icon is the Academic Counseling and Welcome Center button. So if you ever need help with what classes you want to take for the next year. If you have any questions in general, you can click here and then you can click over to there and then they'll direct you to resources that you need to find. Um, this light bulb here is the Tutoring and Success Center. So like I mentioned before, the Writing Success Center, it's not only the Writing Success Center, there is also the the math and the reading success centers that you have available to you. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. This is the Student Technology Help Desk. So if you need, actually, it's this one right here. If you need any help with, um, if you need any help with, um, you know, anything with the internet, if you're having trouble accessing your classes or whatnot, it's really important that you go ahead and you utilize this in case you need any help with any technological support. This one is called the Online Learning Readiness, and this icon has a lot of resources to kind of enhance your online learning. Over here, we have the admissions and financial aid and cashiers icon. So if you have any questions about admissions and records, feel free to click on that link over there and you'll be able to see what it is that you may need help with, especially with financial aid. This one right here is for DSPS services. So if you have a 504 or an IEP and you need more information and you need help with anything, that is the button for this. And then these two, which I think are, especially this one, is very beneficial. So this one right here is the library online. So this is your online library. If you're not able to come to campus, to either campuses, and you're not able to go to the library in person, this is your online database that you can have access to. And then this one is your wellness support. You guys have access to timely care. You guys have access to all mental health um, necessities. And, try to utilize that because, it's always going to be hard to navigate through school when you have things like back and forth. Um, you got to always prioritize yourself as well. So those are the additional resources that we have that you guys have. If you happen to be locked out of your account, make sure you guys call the help desk and it's this number right here. Okay. So with that, that is the end of this workshop. If you guys ever need any assistance, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, these are our contact information from our email, our phone number, and then our office hours for this semester. And then over here, if you guys have not done so, if you guys have not done so yet, please feel free to follow us on our LBCC ECI Instagram page. We are always posting and we're always updating on there. So, if you want to see another, if you want to participate in another student success workshop, I definitely would recommend that you guys follow the Instagram because that is how you guys will have access to the Zoom links and then how you guys will also have access um, to upcoming updates. So, other than that, thank you guys for joining. Again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us here. Um, and I will see you guys next time for the next student success workshop, which is going to be about group um, group projects. So I hope you guys have a really good day and go Vikings.